It all began with what seemed like a routine seismic scan near Smith's Cove. No one could have predicted how it would end, with military surveillance surrounding the island. Rick Lagina and his team accomplished what many believed was impossible. They drilled into a cavity that shouldn't have existed and uncovered a treasure that defied all logic. Nearly $98 million worth of gold bullion, stacked neatly like firewood. But the gold wasn't the biggest revelation. The real story was what happened the moment they entered the chamber. Everyone was eager to get back to work, especially in the swamp. Laughter masked the tension, but it was clear. This was no longer just a treasure hunt. Everyone was invested. This had become something far more serious, an active crime scene dating back to the 1700s. They called it the 160-foot miracle. Nature doesn't create perfect rectangles, yet this space was exactly that. The dimensions were astonishing, 30 feet long and 10 feet wide. The tension on Oak Island was thick, almost suffocating. Rick Lagina made the call to sink a massive 10-foot wide steel caisson, a towering metal tube designed to isolate the chamber from the deadly floodwaters that had defeated treasure hunters for centuries. The cost was staggering, running easily into the millions. But the potential reward was beyond price. As the oscillator drilled deeper, the island resisted. This was Oak Island after all. The drill teeth groaned through blue clay and massive granite boulders until the sound suddenly changed. Someone noted something unusual, silver in the water. That alone was enough reason to keep pushing forward, to stay hopeful and alert. The grinding of rock stopped. Instead, there was a piercing screech, metal scraping against metal. The engines shut down, and silence took over. Rick, Marty, and the rest of the team gathered around the open shaft, staring down into the darkness. They lowered a high-definition camera into the damp, shadowy throat of the caisson. At first, the image was blurry, clouded by dust and moisture. Then it cleared, and what appeared on the screen sent chills through everyone watching. It wasn't a wooden chest. It was a wall, a massive man-made wall of gold bars stacked from floor to ceiling. The camera's light bounced off the metal, producing a dull, heavy glow. This wasn't a scattering of coins or a small cache. It was a fortress of wealth. Based on what they could see alone, estimates placed the value at around $98 million, and that was likely only part of it. But the treasure came with a warning. As the camera shifted left, it revealed a huge slab of hand-cut granite ceiling part of the chamber. Carved into it were symbols resembling a mix of Templar crosses and pirate skulls. It was clearly meant as a warning. The team had found the treasure, but they had also triggered the first stage of a centuries-old security system. Celebration quickly turned to alarm when the seismometer on the surface spiked. Something enormous was moving underground. The people who built this weren't careless pirates. They were master engineers. The moment the chamber was breached, the island's dormant defenses came alive. It happened instantly, which made it even more terrifying. A deep rumble vibrated through the steel casing of the caisson. Craig Tester noticed it first. The water level inside the shaft was rising. This wasn't normal seepage. It was a surge. The newly discovered chamber was connected to the infamous Smith's Cove flood tunnels, ancient finger-like drains packed with coconut fiber and stones, engineered to funnel seawater directly into the treasure pit if disturbed. The brilliance of the trap lay in its delay. It allowed intruders just enough time to see the gold, to feel victory, before trying to drown them. Panic set in. A fortune worth $98 million was exposed, and the Atlantic Ocean was rushing in to reclaim it. This became a battle between modern technology and 18th century ingenuity. The team deployed high-capacity industrial pumps, the kind used to drain swamps. The roar of the engines was deafening, a mechanical scream fighting against the relentless surge of water. For hours, it was a stalemate. The water would rise a foot, the pumps would push it back a foot. Rick Lagina, usually calm and optimistic, looked shaken. Gold itself wouldn't be harmed by water, but the chamber held more than gold. The camera had revealed wooden chests and leather-bound artifacts that salt water would destroy instantly. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about preserving history. They had seconds to decide. They couldn't stop the water, but they could move faster than it. A high-speed winch system was rigged for a grab-and-go operation. A diver was lowered into the rising, chaotic waters of the shaft. It was the most dangerous dive in the history of the operation. Visibility was zero. The diver navigated by touch alone, surrounded by swirling mud and gold. One by one, gold bars were hauled to the surface, 40 pounds of solid history swinging through the air. Then the diver signaled frantically. The water wasn't just flooding in from the tunnels anymore. The floor itself was cracking. The immense weight of the caisson combined with the hydraulic pressure below was destabilizing the entire cavern. They were standing on a thin crust above a liquid void. Just as the final chest was secured, the floor collapsed, revealing a second, deeper chamber beneath. The gold was saved, stacked safely on the muddy surface, gleaming under the Nova Scotian sun. But the greatest shock came from that final chest. It wasn't filled with coins or jewels, and that discovery would change everything. The chest was made of cedar, a wood prized for its resistance to rot, and sealed tightly with beeswax and strips of lead. When Rick finally forced it open, a wave of old paper and tobacco scent rushed out. Inside were ledgers, not personal journals, but detailed accounting books. This is where the story took an unexpected turn. For centuries, we've been told that pirates buried treasure simply to hide it. But these documents told a very different story. They revealed the existence of a highly organized syndicate. Written in a complex mix of Masonic ciphers and naval shorthand, the decoded text laid out what was essentially a business plan. The infamous pirates we know, Captain Kidd, Blackbeard, Henry Avery, weren't operating alone. According to the ledgers, they were shareholders in a massive transatlantic criminal banking network. Oak Island wasn't a piggy bank, it was a central reserve. The level of organization was staggering. The books detailed gold deposits from Caribbean raids, investments funneled into legitimate colonial businesses in places like New York and Boston, and even bribes paid to senior officers in the British Navy. This discovery completely rewrote the narrative. These weren't just lawless criminals. They were the architects of an offshore financial empire powerful enough to rival nations. The $98 million in gold that was recovered wasn't the whole fortune. It was just one account. A deposit slip found with the bars labeled it Reserve Fund B. That realization raised a chilling question. If this was only a reserve fund, where was the primary capital stored? The documents also included maps, but not the typical treasure maps marked with X's. These were navigational charts showing trade routes, safe harbors, and locations that functioned as other branches of the pirate banking network. One of the most shocking revelations involved the Knights Templar lineage. The symbols carved into the granite slab weren't decorative. The syndicate appeared to have adopted, or descended from, remnants of the Templar order, using their ancient financial knowledge to launder pirate wealth. Even the gold bars themselves carried clues. Alongside Spanish markings was a unique syndicate seal, a skull overlaid on a square and compass. As the team translated the final pages of the ledger, they discovered a list of names, one belonging to a direct ancestor of a current US politician. Suddenly, this was bigger than Oak Island. The discovery at Smith's Cove shattered the boundaries of the treasure hunt. The team realized they weren't just uncovering a site in Nova Scotia, they were standing at the hub of a global network. The maps in the cedar chest pointed far beyond Canada, with coordinates leading to a volcanic island in the Caribbean, a swamp in Louisiana, and a hidden catacomb in Madagascar. The syndicate had diversified its holdings. They understood that if one vault was compromised, the others needed to remain secure. That explained the extreme defenses at Oak Island. The flood tunnels, box drains, and pressure plates were cutting-edge security for the 1700s, designed to protect the central nerve center of their operation. But the documents also revealed why the treasure was never recovered. The syndicate collapsed. Betrayal, internal conflict, and relentless pursuit by the Royal Navy tore the organization apart. The key holders were killed or executed, taking the knowledge of the traps with them. The gold remained buried as the world slowly forgot it existed. Historians and cryptographers were brought in to study the Madagascar connection. The coordinates pointed to a region associated with the pirate Republic of Libertalia, a legendary colony long dismissed as myth. These documents suggested it was real, and that it was funded by the very gold hidden at Oak Island. This created a difficult decision for Rick and Marty. Do they remain on Oak Island, searching for the main capital hinted at in the ledgers? Or do they launch a global expedition? The $98 million already recovered was life-changing, but the historical value of the maps was beyond measure. They represented lost chapters of the golden age of piracy. There was another troubling detail. The documents mentioned a fail-safe system. If the Oak Island vault was ever breached, a signal was meant to be sent to the other branches. The pirates themselves were long gone, but the team began to wonder if their digging had triggered other mechanical safeguards. Could they unknowingly cause a collapse in a vault thousands of miles away? The interconnected engineering described in the documents was so advanced that even modern science struggles to fully explain it. Then came more evidence. Radar scans of the swamp revealed the same type of rectangular anomaly previously found at Smith's Cove. The evidence was undeniable. This wasn't folklore or speculation anymore. It was measurable, repeatable science. Before drilling even began, the team had used muon tomography, a cutting-edge technology that uses cosmic rays to map underground density, essentially creating an X-ray of the Earth. The scan flagged a massive high-density anomaly exactly where the chamber was later found. It wasn't subtle. It appeared as a bright red target on the screen. At the time, skeptics dismissed it as a dense rock formation or a natural void filled with clay. Some even called it a glitch. They were wrong. Dr. Spooner, the team's lead geoscientist, analyzed water samples pulled from the borehole, and the results were astonishing. The chemical readings were far beyond normal contamination levels. The groundwater contained trace amounts of gold, silver, and zinc at concentrations thousands of times higher than natural background levels. This phenomenon is known as a chemical halo. Over centuries, gold submerged in the water table releases microscopic particles that slowly spread into the surrounding groundwater, leaving behind a metallic fingerprint. Nature doesn't create that pattern. You don't see that precise mix of precious metals in a random sinkhole. And then it got darker. The samples also showed unusually high levels of mercury. Historically, mercury was used in Spanish colonies to process gold ore, but in this context, its presence suggested something far more deliberate and ominous. Pirates were known to use mercury as part of their defensive traps. Liquid mercury is extremely dense and highly toxic. When poured over a buried chest or spread across a wooden platform, it created a deadly barrier for anyone attempting to dig by hand. Strike that layer with a shovel, and the mercury would instantly flood the hole. The discovery of mercury confirms this site wasn't just a storage location. It was a deliberately engineered hazard zone, designed to injure or kill anyone who wasn't meant to access it. Then there were the gold bars themselves. The metallurgy of the recovered bullion revealed an even more compelling story. The bars weren't uniform. Some carried official Spanish royal stamps, others were clearly of French origin, and some were crude, hand-poured ingots with no markings at all, likely melted down plunder from captured ships, intentionally stripped of identifying features to conceal their source. This mix of origins is the strongest evidence yet supporting the syndicate theory. This wasn't a single pirate crew hiding one haul. It was an enormous concentration of wealth gathered from across the world and funneled to one small, remote island in the North Atlantic. So, did Rick Lagina truly crack one of the greatest mysteries in history? The gold is real. The documents are persuasive. And our understanding of piracy may never be the same. Still, many experts believe this discovery is only the beginning, that what's been found so far may represent just a fraction of what remains hidden. And if you want to see what's uncovered next, be sure to like this video and subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next. Please subscribe to the Timefold channel and don't forget to like.